were so tight that it broke the clips. So
Okay,
you can hold that
we can
one
just
for
talk.
me.
And is there someone to give us feedback if we're talking loud or quiet?
Not really. They'll usually eventually somebody will be like, we can't hear you if it's like actually bad.
Okay, cool.
And I was doing horizontal on the last few. It's so casual. There's nobody in there. My assistant will chop it all up later. And it's
no,
good.
I'm just laughing because I was like, oh, of course it's 11:45.
This side, right? There's a tsunami siren happening right now. So
just,
we'll just keep it casual. All right, let me see if I can
I think
get in a shot. Yeah, we're in the shot. Sweet. Yeah, so I'm kind of going back to vertical because it just chops up so much better, and I think it's better. Yeah, I think so. Okay. So, hey, we have some hips problem, a little glute challenge going on with your powerlifting, and we're going to do some live massage therapy for Vol.
We're so excited.
We're so excited to have her in here today. We have my guest, and we're going to be supporting your powerlifting concerns with some hands-on techniques for the nervous system and to promote overall healing as we usually do. So this is a real live massage session with one of my actual clients who has kindly agreed to live stream this treatment and help me bring you all into the world of holistic healing and touch-based medicine. I'm Adele Lefevre. I'm a licensed massage therapist, anatomy instructor, and board-certified health coach. And thanks for reaching in with us. So to start, Vol, will you introduce yourself?
I absolutely
and tell us a little bit.
So, hi, my name is Vol. By trade, I am a social worker and therapist who works with kiddos, but my main outlet and my passion is in powerlifting and just the human body. I am doing my best to actually gain my CPT license, so my certified personal training certificate and licensure through NASM, that's in progress to combine with therapy. So I ask interesting questions, and me and Adele have amazing conversations.
Amazing conversations. I'm so excited for this session. It's going to be great energy. Okay, so will you tell us again, we checked it a little bit, but for our potential viewers, can you re-up us on your main physical concern?
Yeah, so I have reintroduced heavy weightlifting into my programming again for my body maintenance and my mental health, and it is a challenge because I am challenged with the fear of pain. And so with that being said, I had a prior injury a year ago in my glutes between the piriformis and some of the funny little tiny obturators that did something, and we've been rehabbing that on and off, and so I feel confident enough where I am pushing my limits, and right now we're helping our glutes fire correctly and stop being a silly goose because they don't listen sometimes, but this week they listened. So
yes, we're on track. Awesome. Will you just give us a little bit of a heads up on any secondary concerns that we need to stay aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have some upper body tenderness going on. I do have some neck stiffness that would be lovely to look at as well, and it probably was a contribution from the main concern. But I think those are the two real main things.
All right. Yeah. So we've got a little compensation pattern feeding the rest of the way up to the spine. We've been working on that for a while. And would you tell us, before we get started, what is your main reason for choosing massage therapy to address those issues?
Well, I think that the neuromuscular patterns that you help me recreate have been so helpful in my lifting patterns. I don't think I would be the same person or lifter if I didn't have someone to kind of help me guide my nervous system, because I get stuck in my brain and I get stuck in my head. And you help pull me out of that in a way that other either health coaches or regular therapists, like, they can only do so much, but you actually have a feel on my body and can help guide me in the way I need to.
I love hearing that, and I love tracking the way that you remain aware over time of that interface between the somatic and like your body experiences and the impact on your mental health, that kind of anxiety and fear about pain level, and just continuing to choose bravery and challenging yourself to go above and beyond to take your body to the next level every time. And I know that when that's been, like, when you've had injuries where you had to slow down, that's hard on you. You've expressed like that holds you back in your like emotional well-being as well. And so I just always really appreciate your level of awareness of the interface between the body and mind and that work that we're doing together. So I'm gonna pull the camera out with me for a minute while you hop on the table. You know the drill. We've done this lots of times. So did you have any questions for me before we get started?
Not before we get started. The questions come after.
Yes. The questions will continue to come. There's no end of questions. All right. So I will just kind of pull this equipment out and give you a few moments of privacy. My hands are always full for these. Like, oh, thank you. So kind. Okay, so we're going to be working with Fall today, and I am just delighted to have her, and she's one of my favorite clients, and having her volunteer to help us out today was just super exciting for me to get that notification. So I'm going to wash my hands up and rejoin. So if you're hanging out, just give us a few seconds. All right, you ready for me, babe? Yeah, let's go. Okay, so today we're just including as many people as possible in what's actually happening in real live massage therapy sessions that can have so much variability depending on who we're treating and what concerns they're coming in the door with. So I'm going to finish setting up so that we can get going. I'm just going to tuck this microphone so that people can kind of catch your
I'll lift it up if I
comments. I think it's fine to just let it sort of sit there.
Okay.
It's sounded fine in the past.
Got it.
Actually, let me trade you loud mics. There we go. That one's better for that one. Okay. Okay. I'm hoping our sound is good. We'll always come back and recapture, clean this up later to make it a little more watchable. So if you're joining us for the live stream session, thanks for your patience. Dun, dun, dun. Oh my gosh. So we already got a little chat in about like just the extent to which massage therapy is one skill set and live streaming is a whole other skill set. So I'm still very much in the process of like learning my path on that journey.
Hey, we learn by doing.
We do, exactly. Okay. So I'm gonna check out your overall structure. Let's check if you're comfortable on your bolster here. Feels just about right on the ankles. How's your neck doing?
Could this be slightly higher?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, you're the best.
That looks much better on the neck.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So some of our sessions have been like really deep trance moments where we're like tuning into the nervous system in a fine detail way and capturing in your own like depth of experience that rewiring and the way that we can
learn to give new neuromuscular instructions as that awareness of the body position and all the stimulation coming in from the outside just gives us different information. Some of our sessions are very chatty and fun and silly, and I'm suspecting we might be a little bit more on the fun and silly side today.
I am here for both.
All right. Will you tell me a little bit about what life was like before you got on your massage therapy rhythm?
A lot of guessing and a lot of worry, I think.
Worry.
Yeah. I mean, anxiety is something that I've dealt with probably since I was a very young teenage, like even maybe prepubescent.
Mm.
But massage has definitely helped me to have feedback from somebody other than myself on what my body's doing, what is going on with it, because I've always had a good mind body awareness, but not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily someone else to give me that feedback and to be like, hey, this is what's going on and you're okay, or something is, we can do something about it.
Totally.
Or, being able to surrender to, well, we can help it, but maybe there's not so much to be done. I do want to say that massage has always been kind of in my life in the sense that my dad has really, a lot of injuries, and I learned how
Mm.
to help him feel better through just like, at home massage. And so when I was old enough finally to experience it myself, it in terms
I
of
love that.
exploring, playing with what my body can handle and can't handle in its own capacities.
Hearing that about your childhood, especially having some impact with massage in it, really makes sense to me, because a lot of people who do have that stronger instinct for embodiment that they need to find touch-based healing. Often there's been a bit more touchy-feely family upbringing with more cuddling or massage, kind of casual, or we'll sometimes say colloquial massage, where
Mm-hmm.
somebody's watching a show and somebody is rubbing somebody's shoulders, just casual little things happening in the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I think from when I was like, I remember when I was 13, I think specifically, and I was like, my dad pointed to a spot in his back, and he's like, "What do I do?" And we YouTubed it, and it helped. It literally helped, and that's when I was like, okay.
That's so awesome. I would say, I think when I was like at that age, we didn't really have the level of access. I mean, definitely not just an infinite amount of YouTube
Oh yeah,
available to
definitely,
look stuff
definitely.
up.
This was like in the beginning when like the
Yeah.
internet was wild and people were just putting things for the sake of putting things.
Right.
And I think that kind of opened the door to be like, yeah, you can have access to information. Don't know if you'll do it right, but it was there.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm just kind of generally opening up, giving this overall stimulation, kind of circulation support. It hits the lymphatic system and the blood supply, kind of turns everything up and starts prompting the fascia to loosen. So we're just getting the whole nervous system a little bit of communication that we're about to jump in and be talking to it here. So we're not zoomed in on our target zones yet, but starting to get that sense of your body dropping into position and finding a little more neutral space in the way the spine is lining up. But we will want to get directly into those glutes soon.
It's so funny because I can feel you like pulling it in a way where it's like, no, you should be here and you want to feel here, and I'm like, oh, that feels so much better than what I was like, the position you're in when you're in like a protective state.
Right, exactly. And that's a great way of describing it, that anytime that we have a impact or we get tugged on in a way that fires off the nervous system's protection mechanisms to prevent us from dropping into further injury, then that communication can really just linger in the neuromuscular junction. And that's what a lot of times when you hear people say like the issues are in the tissues or like the body keeps the score, that's underlyingly a big part of what we mean, that the fascia and the neuromuscular junctions themselves are actually storing electrical energy as information about what to expect will happen next. And so then we have that impulse to stay in a self-protective state. And just giving those areas a different set of information can really help prompt the restoring of the neutral positioning of those tissues.
What kind of feedback are you getting on my left side, by the way? Because it feels interesting.
Yeah, on the left side, I'm definitely picking up what we call elevation, meaning that there's a bit of hypertension to the extent that it's actually taller on one side than the other side. And so these erector spinae muscles that are a fairly complex set of almost like contractile basketry from one vertebrae to the next has a cumulative effect of just being more bunched up. And so I'm kind of going through and helping mechanically lengthen the muscle fibers that have gotten a little more stuck in a contractile position.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's switched sides. It's like the last
Yeah.
I saw you 2 weeks ago, and it was
Yeah.
not that side
Yeah.
that was giving issue, or not issue, but it was elevated in that sense.
Yeah, our symmetry can really be so adaptive, and the way that the body adjusts over time is really dramatic, that we think of our body, our frame, as consistent, but there's actually a lot of change all the time.
Adaptation and
Day by day.
flexibility.
Yeah, because we have a lot to do with these extraordinary bodies.
We got to do all the things.
I'm wondering about when you first started coming to see me. Do you remember what you were going through in your body at that time?
Oh yeah, that one was, I was in a very interesting place where I had just signed up for my strongman competition.
That's right.
Mind you, I've never done any heavy lifting in my life prior to oh, I guess I should preface this that I am a bariatric patient and underwent surgery and a weight loss journey. And so prior to that, I was the only heavy lifting I did was that I worked on a farm all of my childhood.
Wow.
And so,
That's never come
yeah.
up before.
Oh yeah, my family grows protea, and they have
Wow.
a little thing out on the side of the island. And so that was the only physical labor I was getting. And so, transforming my body into this, into a different capacity for lifting heavy things, and it was freaking me out because I feel like I was afraid of injury and damage, and I was feeling new sensations. And for somebody whose CNS is already wrapped up into a tight little bundle, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but somebody told me come see you. So here, that's how I ended up here.
Yeah. So you were in a fair amount of pain, like psychological, but also physical pain at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, my and for me, I think that was a lot with, I remember you like pulled apart all these little different fascia and fibers in my hamstring and into the piriformis. I think it was like my left side or something. And it was such a trip because I walked out of there being like, what just happened?
Right.
I don't understand.
Right. It is really amazing. And that's something that's part of why I want to bring people into the treatment room through these video processes, because I think like it's a bit hard to capture on camera from the outside. It takes a bit of a trained eye to register the amount of difference that can be made in somebody's specific muscles where the pain is being caused over the course of even one treatment session. And so Like I want to just try to make it easier for people to see and register the difference that can happen in the body in one treatment session, or in your case, like over time as we've really continued to nurture your structural concerns and create restoration there. Do you remember, like, at that time, what was going on in terms of what you wanted to be able to do? Where were you fitting together? Like, does that
I
question
think
make sense?
no, it totally does. It totally does. And I think that's just because our brains work similar. But I think I what I wanted was probably too much for what my body was like learning how to do, and I was impatient. So I
Mm,
wanted to lift all the heavy things that were like twice my weight, three times my weight, like my body weight. And I was like, no, I can do this. And then slowly my body was breaking down.
gotcha. Yeah. So going from that level of activity
Yeah, and so there was
just
just
really
there was
abruptly.
definitely like a dissonance between what I thought I could handle and what feedback I was getting,
Mm-hmm.
and learning how to do move in patterns that made sense for me rather than just pushing one agenda, one envelope.
Yes, that makes sense in terms of, like, we often get a little bit stuck on the piece of feedback that's easy for us to get to, whether it's pain or for people who are really specifically focusing on anxiety treatment or whatever it is
Yeah.
that we're measuring. It's easy to want to see all the progress in that one column, but often there's actually like a dozen different small ways of adjusting that the body is trying to meet us where we are. And how exactly did you find me?
I think someone recommended the spa that you were at,
Oh, yeah.
and um and I saw that you were there, and I started looking around and being like, "Oh, have you guys gone to her?" And I think one of like my distant gym friends was like, "Yeah, definitely. That's a good spa. That's a good human. Go for it."
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you found me.
I
We've
am
been on
too.
this journey for a while.
Yeah.
And for any of our viewers who would like to help us get more people into the treatment room and spread the word of the impact of touch based medicine, I'd love if you could hit like or subscribe for us. I've literally never done that before. Just been like, hit like or
I'm so
subscribe.
proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
This is like my 8th time doing these, like
That's okay.
the first couple of treatments that I did. Well, seriously, I was like, I couldn't really look at the camera, that it was like it would throw my headspace off so much, and I would just forget what I was doing on the person's body if I like looked straight at
Oh.
the camera. So I'm like really on a self-discovery journey as well.
Heck yeah, we're here in this together. I don't know.
Yay.
I just feel like if I have a conversation like a friend, and you're my friend, so
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to just be like, okay, the camera's a friend now too.
The camera's a friend now too. Hey friends,
Hey.
welcome.
Okay, what is that? That
Right
is
in
that my
here.
yeah, is that my IT band?
We
what
are
is going
snagging,
on?
yeah, we're snagging the IT band a little bit right through there, but we're
Because
also definitely grabbing some.
this so it's not giving feedback right now, but
Mhm.
what it will do is it will give me feedback into like it crosses over
Yeah, so you're
into
getting into
that.
the front of the hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we've got the whole gluteus maximus wrapping over the front, and then underneath we've got medius and minimus, right? And but they're tagging, and especially that the top layer, the superficial layer, is maximus, and it's actually tagging straight into the IT band. And
Mm.
so then the IT band, we've got some restriction through there.
Oh, that goes straight down.
And it's going to go all the way. We'll be able to kind of yank even from below the knee and still get a little bit of traction that's feeding all the way up into like above the hip joint there. And so what you just indicated when you put your hand over here
Mm-hmm.
was the tensor fascia latae, which is a fairly small muscle, but it's really what gives you power on the front to kind of activate the IT band. So it's that connective tissue is like dividing where both the glute and the TFL are able to put tension through the entire IT band.
So is it supposed to be doing that, or is it not in sync? Like, because to me, my history is that my
Mm-hmm.
little muscles like to do the thing instead of the big muscles,
Yes.
and we're trying to make them stop that.
Yes, yes. That's like the whole, we've talked about this, the process of recoordinating the body to as much as possible utilize and activate those larger muscle groups when we're trying to do larger muscle action. So it's not doing anything mechanically wrong. There's not like a structural problem here, but it is definitely, as we bring more awareness, then we're going to expect it to act with better coordination. And that's part of why massage and touch-based therapy are so like magical seeming, is it's quite automatic on the nervous system level, that as I more specific feedback to a specific location, then all of the tiny nerve endings that are operating the fascia and the actual muscle fibers in that region are getting information in a certain order based on how I'm touching it. And so it's just feeding into your central nervous system, um, almost like a calibration exercise. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love
Yeah.
the sciences. It's like those little the little tests you do on like a screen. Ow.
Oh,
No, no, not
got
bad. Ow.
one.
But
Got
that's okay.
one.
There's something going on there.
Yeah.
You're recalibrating it. But it's like those little tests you do on like your screens or computers to just put things back in order and get it to
Exactly.
have that functionality back.
Right. That it's just giving the nervous system an opportunity to listen to information that should be a little predictable. And so then it's like your lower brain, like your cognitive level thinking brain, doesn't really have to participate. It's happening mostly in the brainstem, and like the limbic parts of the brain are activating in a like anticipatory way and getting this information that really helps reestablish coordination, because it tells it what's really happening in the outside world in a little bit finer detail than we have time to pay attention to and process when we're in motion, like actively lifting or doing exercises, running, whatever it is. There's so much spatial feedback. And so just holding still and getting the nerve endings stimulated automatically is going to produce that coordination.
I wish there was a way to like transcribe the feeling under of what's going on literally underneath the muscle right now. Like I can see why it's so hard to capture on camera because I'm like,
Exactly.
can these people feel that my leg is like actually vibrating like under your touch in such a
Right.
positive way? But it is.
Right. Yeah. And that's like, exactly. That's the whole mystery of it, that I'm like in this mystery journey trying to figure out how to like get this message across. All right. So when you were scanning for options and thinking about getting in for a massage, did you have like hesitation, reservations, any sense of like what if concerns?
I think it was more a concern of am I going to somebody who like am I going to waste my time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And because I've never been in a position where I'm like, yeah, I have X amount of dollars to just throw on, and if it doesn't work, I'm I'll feel whatever, it'll be fine. And
Right.
so looking for practitioners, I'm always worried about like, do they can they handle somebody like me who I kind of know my body, so I'm going to talk about it, and I don't want to be treated in a way where like I don't know, or maybe they don't know, like what kind of practitioner are they? Are they going to get along with me? Are they going to um, take my concerns seriously? It's something that's super common in any, honestly, specialty, especially touch-based medicine. You're worried, like, are they going to make fun of my pain? Are they going to tell me that what I'm experiencing isn't valid? Which has never been the experience here, but prior to that.
Yeah. Thank you for being super open with those doubts and fears. So it definitely is a gamble because it's a big investment of time and it's not cheap to get on the table. So,
But it is absolutely worth it when you find the right practitioner.
what was it that made you specifically say yes and just pull the trigger, book the appointment, do the thing?
Um, well, the first time it was, I remember reading like about what you love to learn about. I think you had something about fibromyalgia and nerves
Oh,
and that,
yeah.
and my brain was like, okay, she knows cool things about nerves and I want to learn things about my body. I think this will work. And so I just did it from there because I was like, I'm gonna have a comp soon. I need to learn about this feedback. I don't understand what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, and then when I started seeing you regularly, I was like, oh my god, I'm learning more about stuff every day, or every time that I come with you. And you know, create, instead of making it a one session thing, you created a dialect, and that I think has been so beneficial to my overall health.
Thank you. I really appreciate hearing you say that.
Thank you for having the conversations with me, even though I
Yes.
don't have the right words, and sometimes I just call my hips ridiculous, whatever I'm feeling that day, whether they're silly gooses or they're just, I'm mad at them and I tell them and I don't want to talk to them.
I think we've talked about before that idea of like being able to have those conversations directly with the body and that experience of like allowing ourselves to engage with the body. We have a little jump there. So
Yeah.
I'll just describe for you and for the audience. I'm going to repeat that and just give your nervous system another chance a little bit slower to make the same decision. Yeah. So that jump is just a automatic protective mechanism, almost like a reflex. It's kind of happening similarly to a reflex, but it's not
Yeah.
like one of the built-in reflexes that has to be there. It's a little bit more specific to you. We've got a few more little kicks. See that?
Yeah, it's those little tiny pieces are mad about the internal rotation for some reason, because it's
Yeah.
happening when you're rotating my hip inwards, right?
It's, let's replicate it again. So we've got a bit of firing just as I'm dropping, like that you're having that instinct to stop the foot from descending. But it was a little bit more firing on the lateral edge, meaning that, yeah,
Yeah,
protecting
right
that
there.
medial
Yeah.
rotation
Yeah.
from getting folded. So, uh, as suspected, as I'm jumping into where the movement was, there's some extra firmness, and this feels a little more strappy, a little more engaged, and it literally is the muscle tendon of the hamstrings as it's crossing the knee is locked into place a bit because that hamstring is activated when it doesn't necessarily need to be quite so activated. And then because we found that place where it's harder, I'm going to kind of expect that there's somewhere a little softer. And so, right where you were describing being able to feel it, we do
Yeah.
have a little bit of um, like sunken or soggier tissue where the activation is weaker and kind of downplayed. So this is really common, that we'll have kind of too much structural force showing up in the muscle in one area, and then a corresponding place where it's actually a little weakened and a little tending towards reactivity or extra protectiveness. And it may also be an area where the circulation or the lymphatic flow is lower than average. So I'm going to expect that if we just assist this area where the nervous system is showing us some clues.
Yeah, because as you're going and sinking into that, I'm just trying to feel like up and down my leg if there's any reactivity, and certain parts of that I'm like feeling a little bit of a release, like my calf might like twitch a little, or the upper area might twitch, and then at the same time I do feel that again, that compensation over in this area, like some of this is highlighting again, and now it feels even almost.
She's showing me the low back and
in that sacral area.
Yeah. That you're feeling that referred tension definitely spreading through there, and I'm picking up a little action.
Yeah, exactly.
Through here as well, that's what where the calf muscles are having kind of a micro reset.
I was also kind of a silly goose last week. I was lazy. And so when I was doing some of my programming, I had what's called like a bunny hop. So you're like holding two weights and then just jumping. Like it's not a big jump. It's like maybe an inch off the ground. And I was like, oh, I have these giant kettlebells. Of course I can do it. And no, it was like 100 pounds. I probably shouldn't have done that.
Okay. So we're
jumping with 100 pounds in your hands is maybe not the best idea to just jump to it or jump into.
So we're learning how to adjust, how to respond to the body's communication, how to expect what it's ready for. Fall, would you say that there were any positive impacts for other people when you got on your massage rhythm?
Yeah, I think I told a couple of people to come see you. I think that, after I have like our sessions, I do talk a lot to my other gym like friends and my gym members, and because I'm an instructor over there too, and so I talk about my experiences and what it's like to like relearn my patterns of movement, and what kind of feedback I'm getting on my training from like a week to week or month to month basis. And I think it's inspiring for other people to like at least listen to their bodies, or like try to get feedback in a way that maybe they haven't had access to, because not everyone has like a mind muscle connection in the way that maybe I do, and I'm very aware of that. So I'm like, okay, go tap into somebody and see if they can give you a better perspective. Because one of the hardest things is just being dissociated from your body and only experiencing it when it sends you super loud alarm systems.
Yes, which is really, really common on our whole society level right now, that with so many of us doing work that has us at desks and looking at screens, and our recreation is also at desks, often looking at screens. And so we're really trained and habituated by our entire lifestyle to spend less attention on the small sensations of the body, because we need to be able to endure these long runs of focus on a very narrow area, which actually just requires us to hold still. Like it makes us hold our faces still and keep our eyes pointed one direction for a long time. And the whole rest of our skeleton and our musculoskeletal system is not built for that.
No, we're meant to move. We're meant to like experience and be, like just have fluid patterns, not be stuck in just one plane.
I'm grabbing this a little bit. That's activated. At first, it was really under engaged, our more medial
No, I
hamstrings,
felt like
and
I was
now
like,
you can
whoa.
feel that it's lifted up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's medium.
More sensation there now, which is like, oh, okay.
Great
It woke up.
observation. Yes, it woke up. That's a big part of our work in here. Waking it up. All right. So we're going to kind of tuck this back in. Oh, actually, I want to grab this ankle a little bit more before we move on. Reorient the camera slightly. Hi, guys. We've got a few viewers on there. I have found that mostly people are like rewatching after the live session, so I'm kind of actually surprised how many viewers we have.
Yeah.
If you guys want to more of this treatment room time, please subscribe so that you get notifications when we go live, or you get a chance to see the cleaned up versions after the fact. I stuck my foot based on my ankle, like be in the shot.
Oh my god, I hope when you play the feedback, like play this loop after, it's gonna be so great.
Dude, I'm always like, what? Like, you know, like I just watch it and I'm like, wow, I know you've got a ways to go on the like your bedside manner is pretty good, but your like screen presence is very odd.
Hey, people are watching. They're here for the
Yeah,
charm. They're
thank
here
you
for
joining us. Cool. Awesome. I'm just straightening this out because I picked up a little bit of sense of like constriction through the ankle.
Yep, my
We've
curls
got these
toe.
tendons dropping back into place. A few of the ligaments crossing between the bones of the ankle are also slightly, they're just getting softer quite responsibly. As soon as I touch them, they just sort of notice that they're there and they soften a little bit. So then we have more space for those ankle bones to create stability. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna say I just feel it happening. I felt my toes curl at some point when you were pushing on the tendon. I was like, oh, okay, they're listening.
Yes,
they're gonna listen.
Yes, so we get that kind of automatic connection there, which is mostly just a sort of an engineering effect, honestly, where the power of the force is being passed through the bones, through the tendons, in such a way that it pulls on other stuff. But there is a little bit of a reflex there that we can hit sometimes as well. I would love to hear about your big goals in life also, because you have a lot of really interesting features going on.
Well, which goal do you want first?
Well, I mean, the big one that you just nailed was finishing your program, and like, what are the next steps with that for you?
Well, since the master's has been completed, we're working on licensure to eventually be able to work with women and children in our community and help them move through trauma in a way that makes sense for their bodies and that makes a positive impact for longevity. Like my goal is therapy, like the mental health aspect and the physical combined in a way that makes sense for movement as medicine versus not like just treating the mind or just treating it in certain ways. I'm trying to take a holistic approach, and so I am a therapist obviously with an agency right now, but I'm using this time to gather information and data and expand whatever I have in my mind and move towards something that's a little more intuitive because I work with a bunch of wahine and their kids at the gym as a hobby, and it like turns into therapy sessions. Like I'm helping you work out and we're hanging out, and then there becomes a relief in whatever psychological pain there is or psychological discomfort. And so I want to tap into that and make it a more effective and evidence-based treatment that can be something comparable to what a doctor would prescribe, for instance.
That's super well said. And I'm so on board with all of that integrated mind body healing approaches that are a allowing us to restore that perspective of how much the mental life and the physical life are really all part of one life for each of us.
Exactly. And I feel like, you know, in our community, especially, we're in a rural community where intergenerational trauma is the norm, unfortunately. And I see that as a clinician, and I kind of trying to find the pukas of like, all right, in what way can I provide integration for our community so that they can let go of this part of their life and be able to thrive in spite of having those life experiences?
Yeah. What would you say are some of the like really common challenges, and especially how you see that in the bodies of the people that you're working with?
Well, a lot of when I bring up intergenerational trauma, some of the ways that
Ooh,
that
yeah.
prefaces is through pain, through anger, mismanagement, obviously, through,
Mismanagement of
yeah,
anger.
yeah, mismanagement
Yeah.
of anger, mismanagement of emotions, a lack of joy, and even just perspective and worldview. We can be stuck, you know,
Yeah.
and then how it translates into the body. So I teach class. I have class this afternoon, and I do a mobility portion. And I just think it's so funny because it really shows what our community is experiencing is without fail. Every single time they ask me to work on their hips. And do you know
Ah.
what emotions are carried in the hips?
Uh-huh.
Trauma, anger, guilt, all of those
Right.
things. And so,
Right.
and while, you know, the evidence base behind that isn't as big, I think it is a direct correlation to the mental state of our community members. And that's like just a tiny sample size, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that commentary, the idea of the evidence is so interesting because we have these kind of conflicting models, but I think in a lot of ways they're like we're in the process of figuring out how to integrate these
Exactly.
two different.
I think eventually the practice base in our Eastern medicines because they've had the time and energy to actually try what works and what doesn't.
Right. Yeah. That's such a good way to phrase that. That practice based work and the cumulative effect of not exactly collecting these tiny data points, but having the practitioner's experience accumulated over long time frames does give us a huge amount of information. And that is something that I think, like maybe you can write it off a certain number of times, but like all of us in touch based all of us in touch based healing modalities and across the board in people doing energy work or people doing any kind of like holistic uh, electromagnetic field. Like there's so many different spectrums that you can approach it from, but we keep getting this feedback of that, for instance, the hips specifically are a place of like the continuity between the family system and these like ancestral trauma
Mm-hmm.
experiences or these lineage concerns. And then we have
Exactly.
like the Ayurvedic practices showing us like the root chakra is very much concerned with our continuity between the past and the future, and the way that genetics are transmitted through that root chakra region is actually quite sensible. Even if we haven't in the last like whatever 200 years picked up quite the exact type of data points that would make it easy for us to say conclusively that a specific person's concern was directly connected to that, we
Mm-hmm.
do have that huge amount of practitioner experience accumulating that correspondence.
And I love that you bridge that too there because I feel like the only gap that we're now combining to get to bridge it between practice based and whatever they want to call normal evidence
Right.
based is that the science is just catching up. We're just Western
Right.
medicine is just catching up to the practice base to be like, okay, we finally have enough data to validate your experience over these past like thousands of years. And it's
Exactly.
like, okay,
Exactly.
thanks,
And
guys.
we are so not alone in that observation, that sense of, you know, like as practitioners in our different modalities, me with the like hands-on, more starting at the somatic level, and you starting more with that like social and psychological strata. Like we all are coming to that intersection in the middle, that is where an actual person lives.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
observing like we actually really do need both the Western traditions and the Eastern traditions
To kind of like
to integrate.
to
Yeah.
integrate, to get along, to allow for space for one another. It's never going to be this is right or this is right. It's in the gray that we find healing and structure in our practice.
Do you imagine like the impact of the new technologies coming out and all this? Like we have so much rapid change happening with society, both in terms of what we know and the research and what data we can collect and how we're processing that data. Like, what's your feeling about how medicine and healing practices may change in the course of our lifetimes?
Well, in the not nice way of saying it, I feel like Western medicine is going to bite their tongue and
Ooh.
finally be like, "Oh, I guess you guys were kind of right."
That was actually a really gentle way of saying that.
Yeah.
I've heard that said so much more intensely and nastily.
I'm trying to be nice.
Western medicine is going to bite its tongue.
And-
I'm like gonna stick out my pinky on my teacup
literally,
to affirm that.
But like in the longer version of that answer, I really think that, there's going to be space where we're going to be able to have like a measurable process, like a measurable experience to the things we talk about, to the feedback we get in touch therapy, or the feedback we get in why like mental and behavioral health, like their therapies work or don't work. And I just feel like right now we don't know enough to describe success. Like I feel like we're going to learn how to describe the mechanisms that achieve these success.
That is such a poignant criticism. We don't even really know how to describe success.
Yeah, because like if you like look at psychiatric meds, for instance.
Oh god.
They're like, "Oh yeah, this we've noticed kind of works sometimes for this population." But do you know why? No. Do you know what is exactly happening in the brain? No. We just guessed.
We guessed. We tried watching.
And it's
we
like
took some blood samples for a little while. Like it is a lot of data points, but it's also like
not
what
the
does
mechanism.
Mean?
Yes. And
right.
so I want to say like we're getting our words, we're getting our descriptions soon. And so the same thing with touch-based therapy, the same thing with like EMDR and tapping and brain spotting, all these things. We're learning how to describe why they work.
Yeah.
And I think even the spirituality sense, because that's something big for me is spirituality and intuition in my practice. And I feel like we're going to get to a point where we can describe truly what intuition is and works for us and how to tap into it in the same way that like we can describe like spirituality and in understanding in a way that we haven't quite been able to hit it before.
Yeah. I love that. I want to hold that. And also I just found this kind of like medial hamstring strip, hitting gracilis a little bit here too.
Yeah.
Oh,
nope. Keep doing
you need to do. We don't want to give up. All right, deep breath. I was talking to someone this morning who was like, when you say that you're gonna do some deep flossing, that sounds like it hurts. Does it hurt? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's not exactly that it doesn't hurt.
You literally feel your body being pulled apart and put back together in the best way possible.
Right. That it shouldn't be the kind of pain where we're activating fight or flight and you're like having to run away. But I was trying to explain like it's actually really imperative to have those experiences, almost like doing like a cold shower with Wim Hof method or something, that when we wire the nervous system to have more tolerance for the level of intensity involved, then we have this opportunity to create structural change that can be really necessary and really pertinent and make a bigger long-term impact. But of course, we can always slow down. And sometimes there's an area that is highly sensitized or it's really needing a lot of structural change. And we can't always just pull it all apart and stick it back together in the course of like a short period or even in the course of one session, but we can gradually retrain the nervous system to register where we are in space in a new way. And if it's too stimulating and I'm dropping in too deep and somebody is thrashing around and acting like they need to run away, like we're going to back off a little bit and we're going to give a chance for the nervous system to catch up to the volume of information
that
that's
it's willing to
getting sent
receive.
from
Yeah.
my touch all the way up into your central nervous system, getting divided into like, is this a threat or is this a safe experience? So anyway, we got some good opening right there as we pulled that down.
I think what matters too, though, is that you create a sense of safety for the person to access that discomfort and the sensation.
Oh,
You know,
thank you for saying that. Yeah,
but it's so important because if you didn't,
right.
then how would my body be able to respond in a way that isn't, what your goal is? Like it's hard to, like, for me to even be able to talk through being flossed right now and reactivating those muscles is a
Absolutely.
huge testament to the connection that you've created and that sense of safety that you've created for my body to allow that to even happen.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of the relevance and like why I feel so passionate about bringing more awareness to touch-based medicine and massage therapy and just helping people have a clearer picture so that they can sign up in an informed way to have that very like personal experience of being individually attended to in the like micro moment by moment, muscle fiber by muscle fiber level of the experience that gets quite pixelated, if we can borrow some of our computer language, like that we're creating really fine data points for you of what it's like to be in your own body. And that has the impact of allowing your system to make more informed decisions with how you're moving through space, how you're carrying your own weight on your own frame, and maneuvering the weights that you're picking up during lifting and all of your sports endeavors. Like it really opens up that connection. And then of course just the default level of the better that you can feel able to predict your own body, the more literal self-trust you can experience. And so the impact of that on a mental health level is really substantial.
Yeah, because it's huge. I mean, if you think about the lasting impacts that touch-based therapy with a safe practitioner can do, it's like you could enable somebody to safely feel like, oh, I can pick up my child and I'm not worried that I'm going to do it wrong. Or that what if I fall? I know how to get up because you taught me how to feel what it's like to not, how you helped to teach my muscles how to respond in a way that is healthier for me so that if something were to happen, it's okay. It will be okay.
Absolutely. That trust building up. And I also really love the impact of how automatic it is. That for people who are, have really gone through something, I work on people who have had catastrophic strokes or like major issues go through the body, where their sense of being able to expect what will happen as they try to go about their daily living has been super disrupted, and that they're in like active anxiety and fear about literally just moving their bodies, like maneuvering on and off of a toilet or on and off of a chair or in and out of the shower. That these things are like sources of major anxiety. And when it's like higher level stuff, when you have an injury and you're definitely wanting to protect it while you do something that's more like athletically challenging as well, that there's only so much effort you can give to like building the muscles back and spending the time in the gym and focusing on recreating your somatic experience, but that it's so automatic with a touch-based practitioner that like a good massage therapist is going to be able to make the right thing happen in your body without your conscious mind having to know what to do yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. Because, like, how many lifters have I watched? They have no sense of what's going on in their bodies.
Yeah.
The same thing with regular people. They have no idea how they twisted or what they moved wrong. But
right.
all they know
like,
is that something
happened?
was wrong and now my body hurts and I don't like it.
Got that jump. I picked up one here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to slow down. Just give that experience again.
All right, so as you slow down, that same thing right there on that side.
Catching that little bit of a glitch into the IT band. That's the iliotibial tract IT band. And it's called that because it's going from the iliac of the hip into the tibia, right? So it's crossing two joints, which makes it especially interesting and a little bit structurally complex. And so it has a lot of different relationships with the nearby muscles that are intersecting there. And like we already talked about the glutes and that tensor fascia latae.
I bet my IT band is just confused. They're like, "What? You have glutes again? You have other muscles besides me and the tiny muscles working?
Why is the tiny muscle doing all the work?" It's like
we're like, "Oh, I forgot you even had big muscles."
It's like a construction zone when the project manager is away for the day or whatever, and there's just like basically the flagger and one guy with a shovel. That's how all the machines are just sitting there and turned off.
And that's how my body does things.
Yeah. No, I get that. And that's, we've talked a little bit before too, also with the like neurodiversity experience.
Oh my God, yes.
A little bit alternate wiring. We have that really strong tendency to have muscle recruitment be a little bit novel and quirky.
Definitely.
And that's okay.
It's okay.
But it takes more attention.
But I think that's the beauty in it. Having neurodivergence and having a body learning how to do things and exist in this plane is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, I guess in the way we're blessed with even more like attention into it than somebody who's neurotypical and is not, it's awesome that they have that naturally, but maybe they don't have the awareness when it goes wrong. And that's our superpower.
That we tend to develop a little bit more complex instincts about how to deal with the types of problems that we cause ourselves often.
Exactly.
Whereas people who it only happens when it's like enforced from the outside, they're just like, what the fuck? Like literally, what am I gonna do now?
Meanwhile, we have plan A through Z. And which different sets of muscles we can do or different choices to make.
Absolutely. Yeah, that awareness of a broader range. Would you say, so this is like something that I'm seeing, research keeps coming out really fast, and I'm seeing a ton of coaches arrive on the scene and like people trying to like bring in different strategies to approach this idea of the difference in movement patterns of neurodiverse people. And we're just starting to get this picture, and it's not coming in very clear yet on the societal level or on the medical system level. But with your experience in your clinical setting, what would be your just like top line observations with like the kids that you're working with? Can you see neurodiversity in like the way that they hold their elbows and the way that they walk and stuff?
Honestly, kind of, yeah. Because for one thing, I think that is clear is that neurodivergence equates to a lot more need for sensation and movement. Whether the type of neurodivergence is irrelevant. Like it'll give you the specificity of what kind of movement may work better or like worse, or what kind of stimulation they need.
Right.
But like basically neurodivergence equals need sensation, need stimulus in a way to make the brain a little bit happier, because they're either overstimulated with certain kinds of stimuli or understimulated with the world. And so you can you can see it in movement patterns. My ADHD kiddos, oh my god, you can tell by the way that they tap their toe in like half a millisecond. I'm like, oh, here we go.
It's like so like stereotypical, right?
Yeah.
Of, like that, like we, as like in an education setting, right? We hope that people will not be slapping labels on unnecessarily or unhelpfully or like causing shame or whatever, but also like kids that are fidgety AF, you like, how much assessment do they need?
They don't. I mean? Literally, no, they don't. It's, I mean,
like you can just see it.
Yeah, and you learn the diagnostic flavor, right? Like you learn the clinical landscape, you learn what it feels like, what that person is, but like, and that's so like intangible. It's really hard to describe until you're in work and like, oh yeah, I can spot a little ADHD.
Now, are you a diagnostician?
I can do, okay, so the thing with is right now my qualifications, yes, I'm trained in assessment, but I cannot legally like diagnose just yet without my license. Like I can, it has to be approved by a supervisor. So yes, I can write a clinical diagnosis, but somebody has to approve it.
Gotcha. And then once your license comes in, which you're like in the final
then insurance will accept my diagnosis from my name, not just somebody writing off on it.
I need a stack of your cards.
I know, I'm working on it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I am not a diagnostician, obviously, and I
don't like that you say that though, because you have diagnosed sensation and problems and things like that. Now, whether it's qualified under our little thing of insurance and the medical system, that's another thing.
Yeah. And I would distinguish, like, I can certainly describe a lot.
Yes, your observation
I'm not the
skills
one that gives
are great.
the label of like, here's the name of your condition and you are autistic or you have ADHD or whatever. Like that's not my scope of practice. And so that's why I say I'm not a diagnostician, but obviously I do like have a fair amount of clinical instinct, and I've been specializing in the nervous system and neurodiversity for like 6 years now or something, so it's like I definitely feel like it's important for me to be there for people who especially haven't had that exploration opened up for them, that like I would never tell somebody like you have ADHD, but I can absolutely be the first person who's like, you know what, I have ADHD and I feel like we have things in common. Like that's part of what's helping me decode some of this stuff that's going on a somatic level in your body, and also like helps me predict some of the socioeconomic impacts that may be happening in your life, or some of the psychological, and so like that integration of like a wide range of practitioners. And I would say like historically massage therapy has been like pretty fringy, like we can bill insurance now, kind of. It's an absolute ass pain, I have to tell you.
I can imagine.
Like the probability of having them make up some like silly extra reason to decline any little thing is just like, it's rough, but there is a gradual increased acceptance of touch-based therapy. And as of right now, massage therapy really is the license for people who want to do like this kind of like this work in terms of a full session that is contact with
the body.
Right. That like even a PT might do a fair amount of massage. Lots of different nurses or like osteopaths like incorporate some massage in what they're doing, but that they're creating a different kind of experience overall, and they're addressing tissue in a different way. And but that as like the one person in my client's care team, that they're gonna like hang out for an hour
Exactly.
time.
And
And like talk through
super intimate.
life.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Describe their sensations, describe their, you know, lots of times I'm going over something and like all that Bessel van der Kolk stuff, you know, where it's like,
Oh my
there's
God, yes.
specific trauma in a range of motion of this person's elbow or whatever. And like, I'm not trying to do some kind of clinical interview and be like, tell me what your mom did wrong, you know?
See, but
you know what I mean?
But that's what I want to do. Like,
Exactly.
that's where I'm like, I'm seeing
exactly.
it. And
But I'll
like,
be like going over that elbow and I'll feel something that's like, ooh, this is the sensation of a little kid that got yanked on from above.
oh
And
yeah.
if this got locked in there forever, and they'll start telling me some weird story about their mom. Like
Oh,
they'll
I
just
love
automatically
that.
go there, you know, and like that's pretty normal for me.
Yeah, because our bodies keep the score, and even though
Exactly.
that electrical pattern is there too, I think the neuromuscular data holds on to the transmitters over there, and it gets stuck in
Absolutely.
that little pattern, just in the
Right.
same way that we have the patterns of thought in our different brain structures. So.
Right. And that's something that I think, like, I mean, I felt like it just was a huge light bulb going off for me when I put this together. But like, nerve tissue is nerve tissue.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't matter where it is.
The synapses in the brain are being the brain right then, but like, there's this exact same quality of synapses happening throughout the entire body. And like, watching some imagery of a body being reduced to just the nervous system, where it's showing like, here's all the other types of tissue taken off, but here's just the nerves themselves remaining.
Yeah.
That it essentially looks like
a body.
Yeah, it's a person shaped cotton candy.
Oh my God, that's the best thing, a person shaped cotton candy.
Yeah, and it's like, it's really miraculous. And the density of like, I mean, any given inch of skin has something like 1 million nerve endings and nerve receptors in it. So it's really intense. Like, there's a lot of nervous system in you, even though it doesn't weigh that much.
Yeah, and I mean, even when you look at like the neurotransmitters and the way of contact and the way of having different sensations and experience, the major producers of that isn't even in our brain. It's not even in the dorsal vagal, like, you know, the little spinny part. It's not there.
The spinny part, right?
It's in our stomach. It's in our our digestional.
I was also talking about that this morning. Like, the bulk of serotonin is produced and consumed in the intestines because peristalsis is so neurologically consumptive.
Exactly.
Like, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Like, it's the main thing that we're doing besides thinking. Basically.
And so the way it's like transported throughout our body, like it's, you know, that's where the major movers are, and the major, like, just that fluidity, and into the lymphatic system. Like, I mean, yeah, our brain does consume the majority of the calories and is pushing the thing and pushing consciousness, but our nervous system works in tandem and is holding on just as strongly as the other parts of our brain.
Indeed. This is so fun, getting to unpack this while we unpack your kinetic chain of your leg at the same time. We always have such amusing sessions. There are a handful of people, just like, I mean, I love all my clients so much, right? But there are a handful of you that I just feel like so richly connected with in the short time that we have together, and like that we're just getting each other, and we dive into topics that are so close to my heart, and connecting on that stuff is really sweet, really rewarding. That's what I want to spend my time doing, and that's why I'm doing this crazy YouTube channel.
Dude, I think about our conversations all the time after our sessions, so this is just perfect to record it later, to be like, oh, what did I tell Adele this time, or what did we get into?
So
be like, no, look what we got into.
So good. I'm about it. So yeah, like and subscribe if you want to see more of this, more different episodes. Maybe we'll have Vol come back and we can work out her hips again and get deeper and deeper into this whole wide-ranging set of topics with what's going on with the medical system and our bodies and neurodiversity and the miracles of life. So fun.
It's so cool that in all the, how big time is and space and the universe,
Yeah.
that our little cells decided to be right here
Amen.
in the way, in their arrangement, so that we're existing as humans.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I have at different times written a lot of like really like kind of chaotic cosmic poetry
Oh
as
my
part
gosh,
of my like
yes.
processing. And that's a theme that comes up in my poetry a lot, is that idea of like what a strange miracle it is that we just happened to show up as us. Like
Like
the
it
extraordinary
is.
improbability of like any one person existing or any two
And
people
being that
meeting.
person and doing the thing, like
Yeah.
it's just, it's incomprehensible, but it's so wonderful at the same time.
Well, that opens up a little bit of like spiritual questions. And you mentioned that earlier. We've had some conversations where we open up the like spiritual topics as well. And I feel like you're such a like deliberately integrated person with this somatic awareness and like emotional intelligence and spiritual perspective as well. Do you have
Well,
something to share about your spiritual journey, and especially like how that might inform or be informed by your bodily, physical, somatic life?
well, I mean, spirituality can be like sensed within your system somatically. I mean, the gut feeling, the
Uh-huh.
feeling in your naal, your
Absolutely.
pico, whatever words you want to use to describe it, but that sensation is universal.
Right.
And I think it is for a reason, because regardless of whether you're spiritual or religious or whatever you want to call it, that concept of intuition and the concept of tapping into something that is not your conscious self, but something unconscious and maybe far greater than what you are,
Mm-hmm.
is just something we learned to describe it through spirituality, but like other people just, they haven't figured out the sciencey words for it. Science will catch up though one day.
I love that. That's exactly what I would say as
And
well. Of like
like,
science will catch up one day, but also like, you know, up until whatever, if it's like the 1300s and you're like brewing beer and raising psilocybin in
yeah,
your little village,
and
and
you're a
like
little
you're
witch.
just a little witch, and like, you know, like you're just doing magic. And it's like that's what we have when we're waiting for science to catch up.
Exactly. And
Sort of an
so,
intersection of art, craft, magic, science.
yes. And that's where I like to put myself, just in that little cloud.
Just a little. I many years ago drew a picture of it as like a butterfly. That was like the four wings
Oh,
of a butterfly. I should make a graphic based on that and
oh my God, I
put
would
that
love to
out
see
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
If
yeah, I tap into that stuff all the time in my practice at work. Sometimes I
beautiful.
take breaks from it because sometimes
Yeah.
we need a break from it. Even my reading, because I do tarot reading and I need
Mm-hmm.
breaks from that big energy siphon that it can be in helping people unravel parts of their lives, but through that way, through that direct connection of spirituality.
You're doing the tarot readings for other people.
Yeah.
And like what is the I mean, we talked about it just a tiny bit before, but what is your process for
Oof.
like who do you do tarot readings for?
Well,
Would you do one for me?
I absolutely would do one for you, my friend.
Good.
I do them in person and I do a lot online. I work for a platform called
Oh,
Sanctuary, which has helped me really like kind of generalize the skill set, because if you work online, you don't know who you're getting,
right.
but you can perceive and use your intuition to help them perceive the problems that they give you, or the situations or lack of situation.
Yeah.
And so that was a learning experience for me over this past year, and I took like a little break after I graduated, because it can be overwhelming having that kind of
Mm-hmm.
download of
Yeah,
information
other
constantly.
people's energy in your field, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a really fun tool, and it's fun to tap into people's energy. And I've had so many people come to me recently to be like, Vol, remember what you told me 6 months ago? And I'd be like, I don't even remember, dude, but okay.
Isn't
They're
that
like,
crazy?
it was true, but I didn't realize it was going to be true in this way. And I was like, oh, okay, right on.
Right. Well, yeah. It is, it's fascinating, and it's like I really go back and forth on like I guess there's a part of me that I try to stay comfortable with, like it doesn't have to be real, like science
No, no,
real, in
no,
order
no,
to
yeah.
be like effective, but that just giving the subconscious mind those opportunities to combine random
Exactly.
stimulus helps us highlight what is meaningful to
Mm-hmm.
us. So I tend to like shy away from anything that makes a big deal out of like there is a concrete meaning, and like
Oh
people who
God,
are like
no.
into
See,
astrology in a certain
yeah.
way, and it's like now your life path is fixed, you know. I'm
Yeah,
like
I
fuck
can't with
that.
no, I'm the same way. I can't with that. And I probably piss off
I
some
can't with
clients
that.
because I will have people being like, "So does this mean this? Like, is this just how it's going to be?" And I'm like, "No, dude, this is what you make of it. Like, we're just having
Right.
a conversation here. Like,
Right.
I
Like, what
am
does it
opening
mean to
up
you?
dialogue."
I'm here to reflect with
And I
you.
think
Yeah.
the biggest thing is human will is so strong and people forget about that. If
Mm-hmm.
you see something and the universe is giving you red flags, dude, you can change it. Like, fuck it. You can change it. You can
Yeah.
change what you want to do with it because you have that will in you. You know, not everyone realizes how powerful that is. And it like, oh, okay, hold on, I'm breathing.
Yep. We're dropping in somewhere a little deep right here. I've got a little bundle of definitely fascia tissue that's pretty constricted, and also the muscle below is having some reactivity. So we're slowing down a little bit. She's like, wait, I'm breathing. I love that. I wish that we all would just do that way more in regular life, because sometimes it's like an emotional experience is happening or somebody's telling you information and you're like, God, I really could use like a
Just a couple
few extra
breaths.
seconds to process. Yeah.
Hey, I think silence is so useful.
So good. Yeah, no pressure. You just breathe, babe, as long as you need to. So good. Yeah. Now we're getting it. Got some movement there. So the connective tissue is giving us some space. The fascia is like totally embedded with that nervous tissue, like we were talking about before. And so it's structural, and it's like big sheets or panels of material that's like holding the muscles together, holding the skin onto the muscles. There's a lot going on with fascia, but it also is sending and receiving a lot of information, and it's responding, and it's full of tiny contractile tissue that's like muscle fibers that are just kind of almost independent operators talking straight into the nervous system. And so when we talk to it and give it a little bit of something new to say, just like, you know, sometimes you're bored and you got to stir some shit and have a little bit of drama in order to work out your next level of like emotional growth, right?
Absolutely.
And you just do. You just have to. So we're putting a little pressure, we're turning up the heat on this little zone of fascia, getting it to kind of tip over the edge of a decision that it needed to make, that it's been putting off making. You ever get that feeling?
Oh my God, yes. All the time.
Right.
What is that called? Decision paralysis or
Uh-huh.
whatever?
Yeah.
Gosh. Now, if my fascia could not tap into that energy as much. Ooh.
Oh, I'm right with you. Slowing down. Really deep.
Oh, she's opening up. I feel it.
Yeah. There's ironing. Sometimes it's flossing, sometimes it's ironing. And pretty much any massage therapy, you're going to get some element of, you know, fascia impact. You're going to get the nervous system getting some of that calibration feedback. You're going to get the muscle tissue mechanically adjusted. You're going to have lymphatic flow and blood circulation all kind of respond. But we really are working in a super neuromuscular specific way where I have a little bit of an advantage of my nervous system being very sensitized. It makes it hard to cope in a lot of other environments, but in the treatment room, the level of sensitivity that I have makes it possible for me to pick up and respond to pretty fine-tuned changes in other people's nervous systems. So that's why I particularly love nervous system work so much and enjoy it and focus on it and call it to me.
And you're just quite good at it too. I've never had somebody be able to pivot as quickly as you to a specific need. So
try to be responsive for sure. So I think that makes a big difference. And I think like on an emotional level, so much of what we're missing if we had any kind of experience of like neglect growing up or just, you know, unfortunate social situations, like what's missing in our emotional development a lot of the time is just those micro experiences of being responded to. So I love to be able to offer that for people who need it.
You definitely have parts of my body and soul that didn't even know they needed to be seen. So
Aww. I love that. Okay. That's some good change. Take a deep breath and like breathe right to my hand here. Yeah. And one more really big one. Fill up here. And then keep sending it all the way here. Yes. You get that like tick, 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 tick right through there.
Right there, yes.
Nice. And just one more time, now that you've really found it, you're going to do a super good job. Nice. Whoa, total texture change there. You felt that difference?
Oh my God, that feels so good now.
I love it. That's just, you know, that's exactly what, you know, 1300s, if we were just growing our mushrooms together out in the woods, we would have been like, yeah, that was magic.
Yeah, we just did magic.
But it actually is pretty well documented. Neuromuscular interface, like trigger point,
yeah,
myofascial reset therapy. Like there's all kinds of different modalities that are accessing what just happened there in a strategic and scientific way now. Nice. I want to see that move. All right, we've had you on the table like 90 minutes. So that was a good one. Go ahead and take your time. Have some deep breaths. And maybe I will come back in with you. Usually I have my clients meet me right outside the treatment room, but you can just pop the door open when you're ready for me to come back in this time. How's that sound?
Sounds perfect.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So that was our treatment with Vol for today. That was our treatment with Vol for today. And I'm going to wash up and rejoin you in just a minute. No rush.
Sorry.
Not a problem. I did say open the door for me, didn't I? I'm such a dork. So a super wide-ranging conversation. Really enjoyed it as usual. I have some of the most amazing clients in all of the Big Island, and I enjoy working with them so much. I'm so glad that you joined us to watch for this session. There's still a few of you on there, and I know some people will be tuning in later, so we'll look forward to connecting with all of you. All right. This bag of lychees is so pretty. So it's lychee season on the Big Island also. And we've got these wonderful treats to enjoy. Do you want to share some lychee with me? Will we just like have a final moment?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll pop back in here.
Absolutely.
It's so
It took me a
freaking
second
hot.
to like come back into my brain. I was like, whoa, I got up and I was like, okay,
Good.
let's not be disconnected from the universe. Let's be alive.
Here we are. Okay. Whoa. We usually have the AC running for the whole session,
yeah.
but
So
it's
we're
kind of
like,
loud.
whoa.
So I'm like leaving it off, but now it's really hot. I'll just kind of tuck that there.
There we go.
It's like a little bird on
We'll
you.
balance.
You know, lychee?
Sure.
That's so good. All right. Any reflections for me? What do we do? What do we accomplish today?
We definitely accomplished something because my hips feel entirely different than they did when I was sitting. But it's interesting talking during the session the entire time consciously.
Mm-hmm.
It
makes it different.
Yeah, it makes it different. It's almost like the sensation rises because as you're working on and releasing downward, I felt upwards, like my jaw tensing because maybe I was thinking too much, or I don't know.
Definitely stay in that like cognitive engagement makes for a really different experience.
It's not a bad experience. It's amazing, but just something to be mindful of.
Definitely. I would not want anybody to be dependent on video sessions for their entire well-being because it definitely is a different effect. And of course, for me too, it's like splitting my consciousness to calculate what we're doing in the body while also like having these esoteric conversations.
Yeah, trying to like put forth and beyond. Oh, there she goes. There's the bird. But putting energy into it beyond like because it's obvious that like your thought process isn't going into the movements, but what's happening I think we'll just hold the bird. But what it's like that it's unconsciously happening what you're thinking about. So for you to put the energy to think about it and put it in a way that's actually like understandable for other humans to even listen in on.
Yeah.
It just takes a little extra.
Yeah. I think of also other sessions where we like much more go for that like deep state consciousness where we're like specifically activating theta brain waves and trying to capture that other sensation, like
because that's when my brain goes to an entirely different plane.
And exactly.
I arrive back to my body like, oh, she did amazing things.
Yeah, and for me, I think part of that is this is a little speculative because again, we don't have like the Western science data points,
right.
But I tend to think that it depends on the like mirror neuron system, and that as I use my like history of my meditative practice and all of my like awareness of the theta waves in myself, then I'm trying to like bounce that into my client's body, and then like I get, whether that's exactly the mechanism or not, there are noticeable moments of like your consciousness being dropping to match as I put a trigger of consciousness dropping differently. Yes. And so like we definitely don't like, I don't know how to capture that on camera yet at all, but other sessions we do that.
We'll work on it.
We'll work on it.
Maybe there's a way where you can like, you would need someone else in the body to just like, not in the body, in the room to just have like a tiny little camera and like put it against the muscles like in silence so you can see it happening.
That's what
That
I
would be
think.
cool.
Yeah.
If someone could just pan in
Exactly.
and be like, look at what she's doing to this specific little tiny part in my knee.
Do you know a
And, like-
videographer that needs massage?
Maybe.
Keep your eye out.
Around.
If anybody knows a videographer who needs a massage on the Big Island, I would
Comment
take
on this video.
comment
on the video.
yes, and I will take such good care of them in exchange for some assistance in
She
expanding
will.
this. Like, I'm not trying to get clients. Like, I don't have anything to sell. My schedule is so full already. But like,
But for the video, for the
Yes.
YouTube and the gram.
like for the gram, we're on this mission to just spread the news of how much touch-based therapy could help us fill the gap in what's missing in the medical system, especially for people in chronic pain who are getting handed opioid prescriptions like fucking candy, and it has to stop.
Yeah.
And we are trying to just expand our tool set and allow for consciousness-based medicine, somatic therapies, touch-based therapies to find their space in the bigger picture. I'm a body worker. I'm a massage therapist. This is what I have to bring to the planet. So
And
thanks.
we want the planet to be better for humans.
Yeah.
That's all we want.
That's all we want. So thank you so much for sharing in this mission with me, Mo. It was super great to have you here today. Yes, I love it. All right. Yeah, like, subscribe, share,
Do the
comment,
thing.
and we love you. Bye.